Welcome to Secret of Murder, where we explore the dark side of human nature and stories that shock communities around the world. I am your host, and today we are diving deep into the case that rooked the USA community in Toronto to Canada. If you are new here, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because we upload new true crime content every day. Trust me, you would not miss what unfolds in this story. So make sure you match until the very end. Ananya Mehra was a kind-hearted nurse everyone trusted. Priya was the colleague everyone admired. And yet behind their smiles, obsession, jealousy, and danger were quietly closing in. Until one night, their lives collided in a deadly twist no one saw coming. Ananya Mehra lived a life that seemed ordinary to everyone around her. Yet there was a quiet strength in her demeanor that drew people in. Every morning, she navigated the narrow streets of Pune on her scooter, weaving through the early traffic with practiced ease. The city was waking up, vendors setting up stalls, shopkeepers sweeping their entrances, and the air filled with the scent of spices and fresh bread. Ananya greeted familiar faces along the way. A neighbor carrying a basket of vegetables, the chaiwala who always had a warm smile, and the school children hurrying to their classes. Her life was routine, comfortable, and seemingly safe. At work, she was admired for her dedication and calm approach in the bustling hospital corridors. Patients and colleagues alike appreciated her attentiveness, and she often stayed late to ensure every task was completed properly. Despite the smiles and appreciation, there was a subtle unease that Ananya could not ignore. She often caught herself glancing over her shoulder, feeling a presence that was not there. It was a small, nagging feeling that she brushed aside, convincing herself it was stress or fatigue. Her apartment was modest but cozy, a reflection of her simple tastes. Plants lined the balcony, and the walls were decorated with photographs of family moments, each frame telling a story of laughter, love, and memories she cherished deeply. Yet, even in her safe haven, Ananya occasionally noticed small disturbances, shadows that seemed out of place, the faint sound of footsteps outside her door when none should have been there. Life was calm, but beneath the surface, invisible threads of danger were slowly tightening. Ananya's ordinary days carried hints of something darker, something she could not yet see. The warmth of her daily routine masked the creeping threat, one that would soon shatter the life she had carefully built, leaving a community in shock and raising questions about safety, trust, and the hidden danger. A few weeks before her death, Ananya began noticing a man who seemed to appear wherever she went. At first, she thought it was a coincidence. She would see him at the local market, standing near the vegetables, or outside the coffee shop where she occasionally stopped for a quick tea. Sometimes he lingered on the street corner near her apartment, his posture casual yet deliberate, as if he knew her every move. There was something unsettling about the way he watched, the way his gaze seemed to follow her without interruption. She could not recognize him from anywhere in her neighborhood, yet his presence became impossible to ignore. Even at work, the sense of being watched made her uneasy. The hospital corridors were usually filled with chatter and activity, but whenever she glanced toward the windows or the entrance, she sometimes caught a fleeting shadow or a figure that quickly disappeared. Ananya tried to convince herself that it was her imagination, a trick of the mind fueled by stress or fatigue, but the feeling persisted. Her friends suggested she was overthinking, that paranoia could easily creep in when life was busy or overwhelming. Yet, deep down, she knew this was different. Security cameras around her apartment complex eventually captured the man's face repeatedly. The footage showed him loitering near the gates at odd hours, and in some frames, it appeared as if he was observing the building's residents. This discovery intensified Ananya's fear. She began to take extra precautions, varying her routes, double-checking locks, and keeping her phone close at all times. Despite these efforts, a chilling realization grew inside her. The man was not just a random stranger. Something about his persistence suggested a purpose, a reason for his constant presence. The ordinary life she had trusted for so long was beginning to feel fragile, and the shadow of an unknown danger crept closer with every passing day. As days passed, the unease surrounding Ananya grew heavier. It began with small, almost unnoticeable messages on her phone, anonymous texts that appeared late at night. At first, they seemed harmless or like pranks, short notes like, watch who you trust, or not everything is as it seems. Ananya tried to ignore them, telling herself that someone was seeking attention or that it was a wrong number. But the messages did not stop. Instead, they became more frequent and unsettling, arriving at hours when she was alone or on her way home from work. Each notification made her heart race, and a sense of vulnerability took root that she could not shake. At work, she started noticing subtle changes. Files she had carefully organized would be moved, personal items on her desk would be slightly shifted, and whispers from colleagues that she could not identify clearly seemed to hint at her name. Even though nothing overtly threatening occurred in the hospital, Ananya could feel eyes on her in quiet hallways. She avoided confrontation, fearing that raising suspicion could worsen the situation. Her mind raced, trying to connect every small detail. The man outside her apartment, the strange messages, and now the odd behavior at work. It all seemed connected, but she could not piece it together. Her friends and family noticed a change in her demeanor. She became quieter, more cautious, and hesitant to share her daily routines. Sleep came in short bursts, interrupted by the fear that someone was always watching, waiting for the perfect moment. Every routine trip, every simple task, was shadowed by the thought that danger lurked nearby. Ananya's life, once predictable and comforting, had transformed into a web of suspicion and anxiety. Despite her careful efforts to stay vigilant, a sense of impending threat loomed, as if invisible hands were tightening around her life, preparing to strike when she least expected it. Among Ananya's colleagues, one person began to stand out in ways that made her uneasy. Priya, a fellow nurse, had always seemed friendly, but over time, her behavior shifted in subtle and unsettling ways. She asked more questions than necessary about Ananya's personal life, probing into routines, family, and weekend plans. At first, it seemed harmless curiosity, the kind of chatter common in workplaces, but soon it felt calculated, almost obsessive. Priya would casually suggest alternative routes for Ananya to take home or inquire about minor changes in her schedule, always with a smile that did not reach her eyes. At the hospital, Priya's presence became difficult to ignore. She was often near Ananya during breaks, asking questions that seemed unrelated at first but, when examined closely, hinted at a deeper interest. Ananya tried to brush off the discomfort, reminding herself that workplace friendships often involve curiosity and attention. Yet, a growing sense of distrust gnawed at her. Every glance, every question, felt like a test, as if Priya was cataloging details for some unknown purpose. Outside of work, Ananya's anxiety began to seep into her daily life. Even her carefully varied routes home, intended to evade the mysterious stranger she had noticed weeks earlier, seemed pointless under Priya's watchful gaze. The colleague's constant presence made it clear that Ananya was not only being observed by strangers, but by someone she interacted with daily, someone who had inside access to her life. Despite her rising concern, Ananya hesitated to confront Priya. The subtlety of the behavior made it difficult to accuse her without proof, and the thought of being dismissed or labeled paranoid kept her silent. Beneath the veneer of friendship, a dangerous tension was building, one that would soon turn deadly. The ordinary workplace, once a source of stability, had become a stage for envy, obsession, and secrets that threatened to unravel Ananya's life entirely. The night of the incident arrived quietly, with the city streets slick from a sudden evening rain. Streetlights reflected off puddles, casting long, distorted shadows along the pavement. Ananya left the hospital later than usual, her umbrella clutched tightly as she navigated the narrow lanes. Normally familiar sights felt different that night. Deserted alleyways seemed longer, corners darker, and every passing car or motorcycle heightened her sense of alertness. She had grown cautious over the past weeks, varying her routes and checking behind her, yet an underlying tension accompanied her every step. As she approached the entrance to her apartment complex, she noticed a shadow moving near the stairwell. The figure paused, blending into the dim light, yet there was a familiarity in the way it lingered. Her heart raced. An instinct told her to turn back or run, but a strange hesitation held her in place. Moments later, the shadow advanced, swift and silent, and in an instant, the tranquility of her night shattered. The attack was sudden and brutal, leaving no time for resistance. The sound of the rain masked the struggle, and by the time anyone could have noticed, Ananya was gone, her life extinguished in mere minutes. Neighbors would later recall the stillness that followed, the eerie absence of the usual city noise in that small corner. Security cameras captured fleeting movements, though the images were too blurred to offer clear answers. Her friends, family, and colleagues were left reeling, struggling to comprehend how someone so careful, so aware of her surroundings, could fall victim so violently. The streets that once seemed familiar and safe had become the backdrop for a tragedy that would send shockwaves through the community. Ananya's ordinary evening, meant to end with her entering the safety of her home, instead became a haunting reminder of how quickly life could be stolen and how invisible threats could turn fatal without warning. The investigation into Ananya's death began almost immediately, but the path to answers was anything but straightforward. Detective Rajesh Sharma was assigned to the case, a seasoned investigator known for his patience and attention to detail. From the very beginning, the scene offered few clues. The rain-soaked stairwell and the blurred images from nearby security cameras provided little insight into the attacker's identity. Witnesses were scarce, and those who did come forward offered conflicting accounts, describing fleeting shadows, unfamiliar figures, and distant sounds that may or may not have been connected. Forensic teams combed the area for evidence, collecting anything that could be linked to the attack. Fingerprints, footprints, and scattered personal items were analyzed, yet nothing led to a concrete suspect. Detective Sharma realized early on that this was not a random act of violence. The careful timing of the attack, combined with the unusual behavior of certain individuals around Ananya in the days prior, suggested premeditation. But uncovering who was responsible required connecting scattered, often contradictory pieces of information. The investigation revealed that Ananya's private life had been under scrutiny. Her routines, her movements, and her interactions were being watched. Detective Sharma began to suspect that the threat had been closer than anyone could have imagined, someone with access to her daily schedule and personal details. Colleagues, neighbors, and acquaintances were interviewed, revealing fragments of information that slowly painted a picture of obsession, envy, and possible betrayal. Every lead seemed to reveal more questions than answers. The detective realized that understanding motive was just as critical as identifying the attacker. Why would someone target Ananya, a woman admired for her kindness and professionalism? As the pieces began to slowly align, it became clear that her death was more than an unfortunate crime. It was a carefully orchestrated act, a calculated strike with implications that reached far beyond a single moment of violence. The investigation was only beginning, and the truth would shock everyone who knew her. As Detective Sharma delved deeper into Ananya's life, he uncovered a web of hidden tensions and quiet rivalries that had gone unnoticed by outsiders. Among her colleagues, whispers and subtle rivalries revealed that not everyone admired Ananya's dedication and kindness. Some harbored jealousy, while others resented her success and attention from supervisors. What initially seemed like a straightforward investigation slowly transformed into a more complex puzzle, one that suggested the presence of a carefully concealed motive. Surveillance footage, once a vague collection of blurry images, began to reveal patterns. One figure appeared repeatedly near Ananya's apartment, but it was not the mysterious stranger she had feared. Instead, it was someone much closer to her everyday life, someone she interacted with routinely. Detective Sharma's team started to trace movements, comparing times, locations, and behaviors. Gradually, a troubling truth emerged. Someone Ananya trusted at work had been observing her, learning her routines, and preparing for a moment that would forever change her life. Further investigation revealed Priya's involvement. Records, messages, and subtle eyewitness accounts painted a picture of a colleague whose outward friendliness masked deep resentment. Priya had been monitoring Ananya, gathering information about her habits and personal life. Every question asked under the guise of concern, every casual suggestion about alternate routes or timing had been part of a larger plan. Detective Sharma realized that Priya had exploited Ananya's natural kindness, creating a false sense of safety while manipulating circumstances to her advantage. The web of secrets extended beyond the workplace. Financial records and hospital documents hinted at conflicts, minor disputes, and concealed ambitions. Each discovery added layers to the story, showing how envy, obsession, and ambition can quietly fester until they erupt in violence. The closer the investigation came to the truth, the clearer it became that Ananya's death was not a random act, but the result of calculated planning by someone who had hidden in plain sight, exploiting trust to carry out a chilling act. The investigation took an unexpected turn when Detective Sharma's team uncovered financial irregularities within the hospital. Ananya, it seemed, had stumbled upon evidence of embezzlement involving substantial sums of money. The records indicated that funds intended for patient care and equipment had been siphoned off over several months, and someone with access to the hospital's financial systems had orchestrated the scheme. Ananya had always been meticulous, reviewing reports and questioning discrepancies, but she had never suspected the depth of corruption hidden behind friendly faces and familiar routines. The focus shifted dramatically when the team realized Priya had access to these records. Her position allowed her to manipulate files and cover tracks, all while maintaining the appearance of an ordinary, hard-working colleague. Detective Sharma began to piece together a timeline that suggested Priya had become aware of Ananya's inquiries into the finances. Each cryptic question about schedules, every observation of Ananya's habits, now took on a chilling new meaning. The previous assumption of jealousy or obsession evolved into a calculated attempt to prevent exposure. Text messages, CCTV footage, and witness statements painted a stark picture. Priya's careful surveillance of Ananya, the seemingly innocent questions about routes home, and her constant presence at work were not acts of casual curiosity. They were deliberate steps to ensure Ananya would not reveal the embezzlement. The plot, previously hidden under layers of routine and casual interactions, became alarmingly clear. What initially appeared as a personal vendetta was now revealed as a premeditated crime driven by greed and fear of consequences. Ananya had become a threat to someone who valued money over human life. Her death, shocking as it was, exposed a network of deception and corruption that extended beyond personal rivalry. The revelation of motive sent ripples through the hospital and the community, showing how ambition and fear can turn hidden secrets into deadly acts, leaving a life stolen and a warning for all who dare to stand against corruption. As the trial progressed, the courtroom revealed layers of betrayal and envy that had previously gone unnoticed. Priya had cultivated a facade of friendliness and professionalism, hiding her resentment and fear of exposure. The case exposed how greed and ambition, when left unchecked, could drive someone to commit acts so extreme and calculated that they left no room for error. Every detail carefully orchestrated, every interaction manipulated, ultimately led to the most tragic outcome. When the verdict was finally delivered, Priya was sentenced, bringing legal closure but not healing. Ananya's friends and family were left grappling with the magnitude of the loss, the cruelty of someone close exploiting trust to commit a fatal act. Her death became a reminder that danger can hide in plain sight, that vigilance and awareness are essential, and that justice, though delayed, can reveal the full truth behind even the most carefully concealed crimes. The trial left the community shaken, but it also ignited a conversation about trust, corruption, and the vulnerability of those who do the right thing. As the trial progressed, the courtroom revealed layers of betrayal and envy that had previously gone unnoticed. Priya had cultivated a facade of friendliness and professionalism, hiding her resentment and fear of exposure. The case exposed how greed and ambition, when left unchecked, could drive someone to commit acts so extreme and calculated that they left no room for error. Every detail carefully orchestrated, every interaction manipulated, ultimately led to the most tragic outcome. When the verdict was finally delivered, Priya was sentenced, bringing legal closure but not healing. Ananya's friends and family were left grappling with the magnitude of the loss, the cruelty of someone close exploiting trust to commit a fatal act. Her death became a reminder that danger can hide in plain sight, that vigilance and awareness are essential, and that justice, though delayed, can reveal the full truth behind even the most carefully concealed crimes. The trial left the community shaken, but it also ignited a conversation about trust, corruption, and the vulnerability of those who do the right thing. Ananya's death reverberated far beyond the hospital walls, sparking conversations that reached every corner of the community. Her story was no longer just a tale of personal tragedy. It became a cautionary lesson for families, workplaces, and individuals everywhere. People began questioning how often hidden envy, unchecked ambition, and subtle manipulation go unnoticed until it's too late. Her life, once ordinary and filled with routine, had become a stark reminder that even in familiar environments, danger can lurk in unexpected places. The tragedy highlighted the vulnerability of women in urban spaces, emphasizing the importance of vigilance and self-protection. Neighbors began installing better security systems, workplaces introduced stricter oversight, and individuals started to take personal safety more seriously. Ananya's meticulous attention to her surroundings, which she had hoped would keep her safe, was not enough to prevent a threat from someone she trusted. Her death underscored the importance of recognizing signs of obsession, jealousy, and deceit before they escalate into fatal outcomes. Beyond security measures, the story revealed the human cost of corruption and greed. Priya's actions, driven by fear of exposure and financial ambition, showed how quickly moral boundaries could be crossed when consequences seemed avoidable. The case forced institutions to reevaluate internal controls, highlighting the need for transparency and accountability to prevent similar tragedies. For the community, Ananya's life and death became a call to awareness, empathy, and action. Her memory inspired conversations about protecting one another, recognizing warning signs, and supporting those who stand up against wrongdoing. Every small precaution, every moment of vigilance, became part of a broader message. Life can be fragile, trust can be exploited, and sometimes the most ordinary days hide the most extraordinary dangers. Ananya's story, though tragic, served as a wake-up call, a reminder to see clearly, act decisively, and never take safety, honesty, or kindness for granted.